Hi, and welcome to our final session on Spotlight Story Sketchnoting 101. I'm super excited to be here. It's 8 a.m. in New York, so wherever you are around the world, welcome and thank you for listening. So before we get started, take a minute and just screenshot this slide. It'll come in handy. I just wanted to kind of have a way for you to practice a few of the things that you might hear about today. So I'm going to give you just a second. And while you're about it, also go grab some pens and paper. If you have color pencils, that would be awesome. But a pen and paper is just fine. I'll give you 5 seconds. And we'll see the slide again. So let's move on. So hi, my name is Nikki. I'm on the Microsoft Developer Relations program, a developer relations team, and I'm a regional program manager for the US and Canada. And today I want to talk to you about Sketchnoting 101, or how you can get started with visual storytelling. So first, a little bit about me. I'm actually kind of like a multi-hat wearing person, if you think about it that way. So I have a PhD in computer engineering, but I'm also the parent to a very, very curious 11-year-old. And when I think about that role, I realize that I always kind of tend to try to explain very complex concepts, whether it's in a research place or to my child, using stories. I tell stories. And I also spent over 2 decades in research and development. And there we are often trying to kind of explain concepts that we've never built before, advanced prototypes, etc. And I found that it would often help me to kind of solve problems by creating connections. In fact, in one of my previous sessions, someone brought up mind mapping, right? It's pretty much that. You can kind of create connections visually to things that help you think through problems. And third, in my current role as a PM at Microsoft, I kind of encounter a whole bunch of different audiences: startups, students, kids, professional developers, career changers, and a whole bunch of complex technologies: spatial computing, green computing, IoT, machine learning. And oftentimes you want to communicate these ideas to those diverse audiences in the simplest way possible. And this is where sketchnoting and visual storytelling can help. So our goal today is, it's really going to be a speed round. Get a sense of what visual storytelling is and why you should care. Then we'll work through some kind of tips and tricks and tools for what you can do to get started on your sketchnoting journey. And then we'll deconstruct a few examples, and I'll share something that I did, but really kind of get you started. You will not learn everything, but my goal is to get you excited enough that you'll go out looking for more resources and explore and practice. I want you to just keep 2 things in mind. You don't need to be an artist. People often think that to be a sketchnote or a visual storyteller, you need to know how to draw beautifully. You don't. As someone said, it's about ideas, not art. And second, most important of all, it's the flaws and your perspective that make this story unique. Nobody else can tell the story the way you do. And that's why you should share and you should sketch. So what is a sketch note? The example you see is one of my sketch notes. I did this on the Create Startup Tour last year. And what at the core it is it's rapidly capturing ideas of something that you're listening to, just getting them down on paper. They don't necessarily need to be very well organized, but it's really rapid, like clarifying the concepts and kind of giving yourself a way to remember them better. And you do this using words and images. We'll talk a little bit about this later. But as you can see, it has 3 aspects, right? You want to clarify ideas, you want to assist recall, but you also want to give a little bit of visual interest, whimsical, bring something of you into it. It's about ideas, not art. But if you're not convinced, I'll give you one more reason why you should sketchnote. Turns out that when we learn, there are 3 different ways in which we learn. We can learn auditory. There's auditory learning where you learn by listening. There's kinesthetic learning where you learn by doing. And then there's visual learning where you're really learning by looking at things. And it turns out that 65% of us are visual learners. That may not be the exclusive way we learn, but it tends to be one of the ways in which we grasp information. So if you're one of those people who does public talks or your tutorials and you don't have visual components, you're not connecting as effectively to your audience as you could. Second, it increases recall. It's been shown that when you there was a research experiment where 2,500 images were shown to people, they could recall 90% of them accurately 3 days later. And last but not least, it's a skill. Do it because it'll give you some creative revitalization for your brain. You'll think differently, but also because it could build your professional career. It'll give you visibility and connections because people will see your perspective and understand that they see things the way you do, and they will connect with you. Last but not least, really quickly, we're going to talk about sketchnoting, which is how you capture ideas today. But if you want to continue down this journey and upscale, The second step is what I think of as anthropomorphism. It's where you use characters to connect the audience emotionally to that story that you're in. Denise Yu is a great person to go look at. And the idea is that you're talking cloud computing, draw a cloud, give it eyes, give it features, give it a smile. If your cloud is overloaded, make it look angry. People connect with it. And the third step is what's called metaphors, visual metaphors. And the example there is Maggie Appleton in illustrated.dev. And here what you're really doing is saying, my audience understands a concept A. I want them to learn a concept B. How do I translate that for them by giving them a window to look at B through A? So hopefully that kind of gave you a sense of what the journey could be. But I want to talk to you a little bit about examples. So again, my guidance to you throughout this talk is going to be three things. When you start down this journey, be fearless. Just kind of imperfections are fine, just sketch. Be visible, show your work. When you do it, share it. And then be persistent, practice every day. This is my journey. The first example of how sketchnoting has helped as a visual reporter, right? Think of yourself as CNN on the site at all the conferences you go to. You're rapidly capturing information and sharing it. It gives you visibility and connection. This was Grace Hopper, 20,000 people. I wasn't even there. I watched the keynote online, but I sketchnoted it, shared it, and Padmashree, who I happen to know but was the keynoter, immediately saw it and amplified it to a whole bunch of people. And it blew up, right? I wasn't even there, but the important thing is there were people in the audience who connected with the same things that I was amplifying, and they reached out to me. Great. Second, you could think of this. You might be thinking to yourself, we're all like socially distanced right now. There are no conferences. What do I do? Well, I'm sure you're reading books, and I'm sure you write reviews. You write blog posts, right? Try making it a visual review. This is a review of Donna Sarkar's book. She and Jeremiah Marble did a book on startups. I saw that at Create Startups, and I started reading it on the flight over, and I sketchnoted it. And the important thing when you look at book reviews is oftentimes book reviews you write not just to share your perspective with others, but also to remember why you like the book in the first place. And you can immediately tell from this, I will never forget this book because I have the sketch note now inside the leaves of that book. Anytime I pull it out of the shelf, I can quickly open it and be like, I remember why I loved it. And it's awesome. And other people see this and are like, I want to read this book. This is great. So perspective and recall. Third, it's a visual guide for learning. So this is an example from Microsoft Ignite the Tour. I've always wanted to learn Power Platform, but I'd never had the time. There was a 17-minute session going on, and I'm like, great, I'm going to go sit there. But you can see that here it's very raw, it's not very pretty, but it captures the steps of the tutorial. I was like, I'm going to listen, I'm going to capture what I need in order for me to go and replicate this at home. And bingo, I was able to go, come back home and like replicate that whole tutorial and learn something in the process. If you are someone who does tutorials, it's a great way for you to share it. So hopefully by now you've got a sheet of paper and some pens. Like I said, this is going to be like a speed round of going through all the things that you could do to get yourself on this journey, but I hope you'll play along. Grab your pen and paper. So before we begin, I'm putting the slide up again. We put it up before. You're more than welcome to look at one of these or look at them after this talk. That's perfectly okay. All I want to say is you want to think about three things when you sketchnote. First, just practice getting concepts on paper. That first link is a great one. Simple doc page, go read it, try to capture that on a sheet as notes. Second, you want to build a structure so people can follow things through the sketchnote. That's the tutorial. Third, you want to practice capturing speed stuff from a visual, like from a vocal thing. Like if someone's talking, the video will let you do that. How can you capture notes from someone speaking without knowing ahead of time how long it's going to be or what they're going to talk about? So before we begin now going into the details of the tools and tips you'll need, let's talk about what the two options are. So the first option for visual note-taking is the standard sketchnote. And in a sketchnote, what you're really doing is you've got a free-form single page where you're capturing all the information visually, right? Words and images, one page, free form. You figure out how you want to distribute it. This is great when you want to capture stuff for yourself or maybe even share it online as an image. A zine, on the other hand, is kind of like a hand-drawn comic that you can hand out to people. And what you're doing here is literally using the same tips and tools, but you're building an 8-panel comic strip that captures the essence of what you talked about or what you heard. And you can then fold this up and give it to people as a tiny little book. I have one right here. So the one that you're looking at is this one, right? So you can see, you can hand it out to people as a tiny little book, and it's a great thing to give away to people at conferences because A, it's fun and whimsical, and B, they take away the message the way you intended them to learn it. So let's get started with sketchnoting. So in the next few basics, the basic tools of what you need to sketchnote. And these are all the things we'll talk about in order. And I want you to just take a second to look at the static view of that animated sketchnote that I showed you a minute ago and get a sense of what these parts are before we dive in. So fonts is typography. Layouts, for those of you who've built apps, is literally layouts, views, and containers. Navigation is signals for how you're navigating the information. Quotes are the things that stand out. Icons are, of course, visual cues, which are iconography for representing objects. People are really representing initially just the fact that there are people involved, but later on for emotion. And colors will help you kind of bring separation and connection. Let's get started. Hope you have a pen ready. So first, the first thing we're going to talk about is fonts. As you might recall, sketchnoting is really about words and images. So the two most important things are how can you write stuff down and how can you then visualize certain pieces of information. Writing, fonts. Fonts really give you two bits of very powerful tooling. First, there is font size, right? With font size, you can provide a hierarchy for the information. So even if you know just one font, let's say you're just good at cursive, writing cursive in large font gives you the sense that this is a big piece of information. It's a header. Tiny font will give you a hierarchical structure. Oh, these are like the body of that particular piece of content. And the other is font style. Font style is really about bringing visual interest. And you might, in fact, even use font style to convey emotion. Make your font scary if you're thinking about something, if you're talking about something that is like a thing to avoid, or make it look happy. One of my go-tos is Google Fonts, believe it or not. You can go in there and search for funny, good-looking display fonts and then try to mimic them. The other place for you to find inspiration is Pinterest. Just search for kind of like vintage posters, fonts, typography, and you'll find so many different options. So now I want you to try it. On your sheet of paper, write down the title of whatever page you picked up in whatever font you like. Single, double, triple, cursive, lowercase, block, your own font, doesn't matter. Just get started. Once you've got that, your next step is really to figure out how do you lay out information. And remember, sketchnoting is a constraints problem. You have one sheet of paper and a whole bunch of information to get onto it. Layouts help you figure out how to organize that information, not just for clarity, but in a way that makes sure that you get everything into that page. Again, there are various things. Now, all of the stuff I've actually picked up from other sketchnoters before me and from resources that I'll share later. But the idea is there might be different kinds of layouts that are good for different things. For example, when I sketchnote a doc, like where I'm just trying to think of, here are 3 things you need to know, I tend to use columns, like vertically. Here's everything but 1, 2, and 3. But mostly when I do live talks, I tend to use radial because I have no idea how long the talk's going to go for. So I start from the top and I move my way and I write until I get to the center. And hopefully by the time I got to the center, they're done. And that's the takeaway message. But if you're starting, I would say start with a grid. It's the easiest one. So if you were looking at one of those examples, see how many kinds of subsections there are. Create a grid that has that many squares in it. Make sure that you can summarize each of those subsections into one grid square, and you'll be done. The third tip you're going to need is navigation. So you've written your stuff down and you've organized it, but your user wasn't there or your viewer wasn't there. You still need to give them clues on how they should navigate all this information because it could get really dense. And so there are many different ways. Again, these are just a sample of things I've seen on the sketchnoting circuit, but I tend to use arrows a lot. It's very directional, very clear. There are people who are really, really good with creating pathways. They create visual interest and you really feel like you're on a journey. So you can put like any kind of visual path, put numbers, and help yourself kind of go from start to end. Connectors, there's literally tons of like templates that'll tell you ways to do connectors where you have different containers that you just want to connect in different formats. I'm from the Hudson Valley and we have a lot of trails here. So I kind of like the idea of trail markers. I've used them a lot. And the reason here is sometimes you don't know what the speaker is going to say, right? So they're talking about one thing, they go to another, and they come back to the first. And now you don't have these connected. A trail marker lets you say, here, just look for the markers on all the squares I have, and connected ones tend to be related. But if I had to give you kind of like a whimsical idea, I love, love, love maps. There is this amazing book, How to Make Hand-Drawn Maps. And if you want to kind of really upskill yourself, go check it out. Learn how people used to draw maps for real-world navigation, and you might just get some really interesting ideas for how you can make your map, your mind map, look much more interesting. So I hope you have a chance to try doing a very simple navigation flow in your Sketchnote. The next one is quotes. Now, quotes might just be like a specialized form of fonts, but they actually mean something to me. This is why I always mention them. At the end of the day, people's brains can't take too much information. They'll process a lot of stuff, but they'll take away a few key messages. Quotes to me have a very valuable proposition. They let you kind of really amplify a saying, a signature phrase, a signature keyword that really encapsulates what you're talking about. More importantly, to me, quotes are often always a personal statement that resonate with me. I'm like, oh my God, I get that. I understand that. So in this particular thing, this was me sketchnoting Austin Kleon's Steal Like an Artist. And the thing that really, really resonated with me was his thing, which said, take time to be boring, practice productive procrastination. And I'm like, that's genius. I literally want to put this on a t-shirt, right? And that's what I mean by quotes. Whenever you listen to someone, whenever you write your own stuff, there will always be this one keyword, one phrase, one something that you're like, this is the gist of it. Quote it, make it stand out. Next, icons. So icons are actually a little bit of a double-edged sword in that sense, because they provide two different kinds of value. First of all, we all know a picture is worth 1,000 words, right? So when you have an icon, you're effectively saving all the space of writing down, this is a great idea, with a simple bulb that historically people are like, oh, that means it's an idea, that's a tip, right? So in a sense, it provides visual interest, reduces a lot of text into a figure that people can immediately resonate with, which is super useful. But there's also the other part, which is over a period of time, it brings a consistent vocabulary to your sketch notes. You'll start like, it's the way in textbooks, right? They'll always use the same link. So this means location. Now, we all know that means location. Probably 10 years ago, before we all started using all these phones with multiple icons, no one would have looked at that and thought that was an address, but now we know. So this is actually a powerful tool, because when you start sketchnoting for a specific technology or domain, you can start building a visual vocabulary using like iconography that you have created, personalized to you. And then wherever you go, wherever your slides are shown, right? People will immediately be like, oops, I see who that's from. My source of inspiration is Noun Project. Noun Project is an online site where illustrators and designers share their icons. You can use them for free if you give attribution. You can also pay a charge and use them without attribution. But what I really like to go is look at the icons, because designers have incredibly interesting ways of looking at words. Put a word and see how different people visualize it, get inspired and sketch one of them. If you're going to sketch it identically, definitely give attribution. But the idea here is to learn, right? And build your vocabulary. So when you're doing your sketch note, pick a few keywords and try to go look in Noun Project for icons, draw them. Next, people. Once you've done all this, at some point, you're going to want to start connecting to the folks who are reading this, right? Or looking at your sketch note. And people they're the bane of my existence. I can draw people, but I've been watching a whole bunch of workshops, and there are simple ways for you to start. Stick people are the easiest. Literally, we've all done them since we were in kindergarten, right? But it turns out that if you go to something like Pinterest, there's tons of palettes, like with stick figures in various poses, gestures. So over a period of time, you can get really good at sketchnoting a gesture and emotion simply with a stick figure. There's also what's called star people. And I was introduced to this by Denise Yu, and I think it comes from Kate Rutter, or it could come from others. But the idea is it's just like a simple star, right? But you can then dress that up, and it gives a bit more texture. It gives a bit more like of a 3D effect. And it's a great way for you to like bring a little bit of whimsy into your sketch note. But if either of those looks a bit threatening, start with just a simple blob. That's my go-to, right? Like literally the avatar style thing, little circle, kind of like a half-cut semicircle underneath. That's a person. And doing people, you kind of just want to put a whole bunch of them. Again, with sketch notes, it's not art, right? It's about giving people enough that they recognize what you're trying to say. And you can definitely recognize people in this. So the hint I'll give for you is start with simple outlines. Once you've conquered that, then go to things like faces. I'm hoping that in the series that we'll do after this. We'll be able to like go into like how you would do really visual like features, etc. But faces are a little bit more difficult, and then start going to emotions. Pinterest is your friend again. Go look for palettes and copy them. The next thing is colors. Now, till now, I've been showing everything in black and white, but I wanted to show color simply to make 2 points. First of all, your sketch notes in live, in real time, are likely to be in a single pen. You've got enough to do just to capture stuff. But if you're one of those people who really get skilled, you can color at the same time. I tend to do my sketch notes in black and white and then come in and color later. Either way is good. But what colors do for you is 2 things. First, use colors as a way to create separation. So when you look at the black and white versions, everything is like cluttered on a page and you're like, okay, I know how I wrote this down. How do I kind of create like separation? Shade in the white spaces, right? Create colors in between to suddenly make those kind of areas stand out. But you can also use colors for connection. So in this case, you immediately see there are green colored things, there are pink colored things, and your mind will automatically look at it in process and be like, oh, I see the connection between the pinks and the greens, right? So you can use it to make connections across components that are not very close together. And I'm going to actually let you literally just hugely recommend you screenshot this, or I will put these out later. But these are the resources that have been super useful to me. The Sketchnote handbook from Mike Rohde, pretty much every sketchnoter I know has started there and learned from it, is an amazing, not just like a workbook for you to work through examples, but like a source of inspiration just to see how people can kind of take this simple thing and use it in various ways. Hugely recommend you get it. Austin Kleon is not necessarily sketchnoting, but about creativity. It's to kind of motivate you to do this by understanding why it's important that we all, A, try visual storytelling, and B, share our stories. Then on the bottom, Maggie Appleton's site, illustrated.dev, and Denise Yu's site, so deniseyu.io, are both super, super good for you to go look at professionally done sketch notes, one talking about anthropomorphism, the other talking visual metaphors. Great examples, great people, follow them. And they do workshops as well, so it's great. And then leave it with the last 2. Those 2 are ones I'm just reading. At the end of the day, sketchnoting starts with writing, right? So you want to really perfect your lettering strategies. And then you really want to have fun doodling and understand how everything that you do all the time, doodle when you're on travel, doodle your food, doodle whatever, right? You will actually be able to improve your sketchnoting game. So with that, I'm actually going to like slow down a second and talk to you about showing your work. So if you have a chance and you really like this session, this is actually the first time I've been doing the second session, but it's the first time I'm giving this talk. I would love feedback. What worked, what didn't, what you understand or not. And what I would really love for you to do is share your docs, #MSBuild, or tag me. Share what you did today or share what you do the rest of this week. I'd love to see it. Again, in case you didn't have your kind of call to action, this was it. But I'll actually go into kind of the last stage of this. Just 2 more things before we wrap it up. So I want you to go try doing a sketch note on one of these targets. But I tried one of them. I think I actually did the docs page. And I want to share with you my process. And when doing this, I want to share with you 2 last things. First, in all the stuff we've done today, we've been talking about it on pen on paper, right? So this is where, if you're a first-time sketchnoter, I would recommend you start here. The thing that makes sketchnoting powerful is it's very inclusive, right? First of all, you don't need tools. You don't need like a lot of money to go buy fantastic stuff to start sketchnoting. A pen and paper is fine. Second, the output is also inclusive. So sketchnoting is visual, which means that you don't have to know the language. You don't have to know or be kind of aware of cultural memes. By visualizing it, you're really allowing the widest audience to understand the message behind anything that you're sketchnoting, right? So always start here first and focus on pacing, cleaning up your structure, capturing ideas with clarity. Focus on that. You will make mistakes, and that is actually good because that's what's going to make your sketchnote unique and interesting. It's part of the value. So this is what I call a static sketchnote, and this is what it looks like. This was my version of sketchnoting, the challenge that I put out. But once you've kind of graduated beyond this, you can go to digital software and try out one of the various tools that are there. So this is a dynamic sketch note. In other words, I use Procreate on an iPad and then I just replay it. It's the same thing that you could see, but now by actually putting an animation around it, I show you the process, but I also give it this other bit of visual interest. The nice thing about using digital formats is that you can actually do things like fix mistakes you made. You can go in and create layers, you can create depth, you can create kind of effects that will bring attention to various places at the right times, right? You can reinvent that sketch note over and over again. Most importantly, you can build your visual vocabulary on one sheet and capture it, like icons, everything, store them on one sheet, and then you can really rapidly sketch note digitally. But I want you to kind of think about one thing. Don't think of it as a replacement for paper. Think of it as an evolution, or almost like a complement to your paper adventures. Paper is always the best way, anywhere, wherever you are, to kind of like get started. And this lets you take your game up a level. And I think like I'm actually going to, I have 5 minutes, so I have time to take questions if there are any. But before I kind of wrap up, I do want to give a shout out to one other thing that I hope you will check out. This doesn't have to do with sketchnoting, but I'm really, really proud of it because this comes from our developer relations team. Today, we just launched Learn TV. In fact, the site has been live through build, but I believe at 8 a.m. today, it went live with our own content. So I hope you go check it out, aka.ms Learn TV. It's on air right now. Check it out. It's a great way. It's like TV all the time on our doc site. And it kind of has a mixture of shows, content, tiles that you can kind of get related information to. Check it out. Give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you. And now, Mel, if there are questions, I'll take them.
Thanks so much, Nitya. Yes, you do have some. We'll go ahead and start in the chat. Chris asks, how can I help train myself to think more visually?
Oh, that's a great question. So I wish I had actually, okay, you got to check at Nitya online. After this, I'll try to share a few things. But here, I'm going to tilt mine a bit. Do you see up there? I was telling Mel this. That's Captain Underpants. That's my kid's comic book. I sketch everything, right? So the best way for you to get started sketchnoting, and I gave you those 3 calls to action, start with anything which has information and first learn how to synthesize information. Just learn to capture notes. We've all done it. If you're a whiteboarder, if you're a mind mapper, if you doodle in meetings, you're already doing it, right? But what you want to focus on to kind of gain practice is sketch everything. If you're doing a recipe, write it down. If you're kind of reading a book, do a book review. If you're traveling, sketch what you see. I used to like spend a lot of time. It's actually a great self-care routine. That's how I started. The pictures that are on your phone from your travels, go sketch them. You will remember your journeys better. So sketch anything, everything, all the time. Practice, practice, practice. Second, I will put the resource slide on my Twitter in just a minute. But when you see those, check out those books. They have practice guides. And October, there's a challenge called Inktober. I think that people are also doing sketchnoting challenges around that. Every day, pick a word, learn to do an icon. Pick a font, learn to write with it. Just keep practicing. Before you know it, your speed will get better and it'll get clearer. The next question I see, oh, sorry, did you want to pick questions, Mel, or should I just go into them?
Sure, we'll go in order for fairness, and then we'll go ahead and launch people on your Twitter for those questions that we won't be able to get to. The next we have is it better to listen first and then draw, or do both at the same time? I do have a hard time doing both at the same time.
So if you can get a recording, then listen first and draw, perfectly fine. Sometimes you're not, you're going to be in a live thing, and then you have to do both. In which case, this is where quotes and keywords come in handy. I never try to capture everything. I really close my eyes, listen deeply, and then something they say will resonate, and I will write it down and move on. You can always fill in the other parts later, but you're trying to get that really kind of sense of what it is. Also recommend you check out Mind's Eye CCF is the account, Ashton Rodenheiser. She's a graphic recorder at conferences. She has a great workshop and a whole bunch of tips on how you can capture things really quickly without losing the gist of it and come back and fill in the gaps later. Next, Mel.
Great, and I think this will be our last one today. It's from Justin, and he says, I'm struggling to find a software tool that allows me to capture visual notes well. Is there anything? I tend to take notes in OneNote because they're easily distributed in Teams, but the visuals I can create are frustratingly lacking. We need speed, quality, and distribution.
Yes, so I'm going to go back to software-wise. On the iPad, Procreate is the best. It's like literally, and you can walk into any Apple store and they're always doing tutorials. So the thing about Procreate, it gives you different kinds of pens. It gives you different kind of textures. You can make professional sketches super fast, and you can animate them. I tend to leave mine looking organic because that looks and feels better. But you can use Procreate. It is expensive because you need an iPad, right? However, there was actually, when I first started, I'm trying to remember the name, I always blank out on it, but Microsoft Garage had a free tool for Windows machines that you could just use the touchscreen and sketch on. There's also open source software. So I'll put them all out there. However, what I want to say is anything where you have the ability to whiteboard, right? There are online whiteboarding tools, anything like even visual note-taking, if you can have a place where you can sketch and then save it into a page and then come back and get them later. I will tell you the 3 tools. I think that's Procreate on the iPad for one. There's an open source toolkit that I will share on Twitter later. And then third is, I know there are a bunch of people sharing things online, but there's mind mapping software that you could potentially repurpose. I will get you those links and put them on Twitter after this.
That is all the time we have. Thank you so much, Nitya. If your question wasn't answered, please go ahead and reach out to her on Twitter. She'll be posting those resources as well. This talk will be available in the coming days on Build on Demand, the same link that you use to access the session catalog.
Yes, yay, and thank you so much. And I'll try to answer all the questions that I didn't get to on Twitter as well.